welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and as always, we are exclusive to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. As always, we are joined by the very lovely Kerry Greenaway and the stupendous Richard Clements.
I'm stupendous, you're lovely, Kerry.
I know, I've been downgraded to lovely.
What have you done to upset him?
I don't know. I'm going to have to have a chat with him after the show, I feel.
Yeah, you have a chat.
I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble.
How have you been this week, anyway, you two?
Yeah, not bad. Starting to, the lockdown is starting to grind again, isn't it? Now we've got Christmas and New Year's out of the way. But it's quite nice.
There's a lockdown. I've not noticed.
I know, it's another one. But it's actually quite nice to get back into some form of like routine without the disruption of Christmas and New Year. Although that was muted this year.
It's completely worked the opposite for me, hasn't it? Really, because obviously before the lockdown, I was running a business and I was running it at my own pace, and now the lockdown. And with my St John ambulance work, it's like, there's your routine. Get up, do all the interviews to get vaccinators out there and everything. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've got bonkers, haven't you, over there?
It's like reverse for me. Everyone's having time off and enjoying themselves over this lockdown. And there's me hard at work.
I wouldn't exactly call it enjoying myself, but you know.
Well, yeah, I'm skipping down I can't even skip down the road.
Skipping around my front room. Anyway, guys,
yes.
We've got an amazing show for you guys tonight, haven't we?
We have.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this one.
So,
I think in that case, Richard should introduce the guests.
Right, I was actually contacted last week by Barry Strohm and his lovely wife, Connie. And Barry's actually a channeler. And I must admit, I've heard of things like this, but, I sort of brought it to you guys. And I thought, what do you think? And we all sort of unanimously agreed to get Barry on to have a chat, didn't we, Kerry?
I find the whole concept of channeling incredibly fascinating. Working in the more spiritual field myself with crystals, I kind of get it, but it's going to be fascinating listening to Barry and his wife Connie and their journey and how this has all come about. So welcome to the show, Barry and Connie. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having us. We're doing great.
Yes, we're over here in far, far away, but we still have the same type of lockdown stuff as you do, so... Yeah. Here we are.
But it gives opportunity in its own way, doesn't it? It gives us more time to do research and concentrate on my crystal work and that sort of thing. Like, it's sort of there's an opportunity within that as well, isn't there?
That's what we've discovered. You've got the right attitude. You look for the positive in everything.
Yeah, it's actually been a great. We've actually got a lot accomplished through all this because. It really cuts down on a lot of things that would interfere with all the spiritual work that we're trying to do. So we can focus. Here we are. It's 2:00 in Mountain Time, USA, and we're speaking to Great Britain, talking about the paranormal and spirituality and a whole bunch of other things. So it's great.
Okay, I found it a very cathartic, very positive experience. For me personally. I found that. I know everybody is different and not everybody has dealt with it as well. But for me, I'm with you. I agree with it. It's given me a lot more time, breathing space to assess things. And, when you look at your life, you can be more discerning about it. Anyway, that's enough about crappy COVID, as we're calling it these days. So Barry, how did you start in this field? How did you first recognise your skill?
Well, that's going to be a bit of a long story. I never even believed in ghosts till I was about 60 years old. I have a business management degree, a civil engineering license, and a minor in statistics. Worked in construction all my life, and was even CEO of a company for a while. So it's, in the old days, I would have laughed at somebody like myself saying they could speak spirits. But here we are. It all started, we had owned an antique gallery back near the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which was the biggest site of one of the biggest battles of our Civil War back in the 1860s. Mm-hmm. An incredibly haunted area. And the ghosts between our store, we had an antique gallery there, and our store was very, very haunted. And the people that worked for me would tell me these stories, and I would laugh at them. I would think they were, what are they smoking right now for all this stuff? Then about 10 years ago, when the Depression hit here in the country, a recession, we had to go back and spend full time at the store. And the stuff started happening for me. We participated in a professional investigation of the building, and we had things I never imagined. And I started to gradually catch on to the fact that, yeah, they're everywhere around here. We had some, great EVPs. I actually saw a couple apparitions in the store, and even found out that we actually had a portal in the basement of the store. And with the activity was amazing there. I started going over to the battlefield and taking pictures at night. And I got amazing photographs. I mean, we had apparitions of soldiers. I got different pictures. I've got pictures of real angels over there and a bunch of other things.
Those are the ones on your website, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we have a website called spiritspredict.com. And I put a lot of pictures and things up that people can enjoy and see some of the experiences that we went through in our learning process. And things just started to happen. And people had looked at my photographs and they said, well, you ought to put these in a book. So I wound up writing my first book that was called Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg, and I posted about 220 ghost pictures in it. Then we started to learn one thing about life, and the guides have a lot of range for you. So we were introduced to some people in Salt Lake City that did board channeling, and they'd been doing it for 2 generations. And I didn't even know what it was, and they invited me to sit in on one of their sessions. And they sit down at the board, and the first message they spell out is, "Hello, Barry, we've been waiting for you." And then it goes on from there. I became infatuated with this concept that you could communicate with spirits using a channeling board. Connie and I worked at it.
When you say that, is that a Ouija board?
No.
No? Can you just explain that term for us, please?
Yes, it was very different. All I had ever heard about was a Ouija board. But the board that these people were using was basically a circular design with letters and numbers around the outside of the board. And once we got started, the guides actually came in and designed the board for us. They would tell us things they wanted removed from the board to move things around. So there's also a picture of that. There's a page on that Spirits Predict site called Board Channeling. Anybody can go in and see the design of the board. And in the beginning, they gave us a prayer of protection to use. And that prayer we included on there, but that is the actual words that the spirit guides gave us to protect us when we opened the channel to the other side. So we started working and started trying to get different types of messages, and it resulted in my second book that was called Afterlife, What Really Happens on the Other Side. And things just kept snowballing, and we kept channeling, and we would work with some other psychics on the board, and they would contribute their energies to it and their advice. And we started realizing that we could channel with famous people. I mean, it was like one step at a time. They kept trying to teach us this. So my third book was called Spirits Speak of Conspiracies and Mysteries. And we actually started the board channel with spirits that had lived these different conspiracies. We wound up doing 27 chapters in the book, including we channeled with President Kennedy, a lot of famous people, and we devoted a chapter to each one of those in that book. And there's where they taught us that we really could speak with most anybody we wanted to. And the way this all works is you have spirit guides. I assume everybody's familiar with a guide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Our guides, we have some exceptional guides. We have one called Laura and we have one called Roz. And Roz taught us and worked with us to become proficient at the board channeling. And then Laura now does a lot of the work with us. And she is a very, very high-ranking master guide. And she literally can bring us anybody we want to speak with. So after we did the conspiracy book, I started asking questions about aliens. And one night, Laura says, we're going to bring you somebody that can answer all your questions because he was one. I said, one what? He said, alien. So next time we get on the board, in comes a spirit called Moo. And he had passed in 1987. He was a blue alien, lived for 950 of our years. And we challenged him for over 2 years. And from that, I write 2 books about aliens. And what we found out at that was that aliens have the same spirit energies that humans have. So therefore, I had the ability to channel with them, and we had the ability to talk to them. So we're moving along with this learning process, and all of a sudden it starts to dawn on me that when I'm hitting the first letter of a word, I'm hearing this word in my head. So, we used the board for a while, and we have videos up on our YouTube channel where you can actually watch how we progressed in our abilities through the years. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden I'm hearing these words, and I get the message, do it without the board. You don't need it. So all of a sudden I start doing all the channeling in my head. And what happens is I actually speak the words of the spirit. It's not like I hear the word and repeat it. It's just I simply speak the words. So things have progressed. Then we started channeling with Holy Spirits, which was really hard to believe. And we wind up one evening, we're there, and all of a sudden we feel this incredible energy. And it turned out that it was Mother Mary comes through for us with messages. It was incredible to believe. We progressed, and one night we get this very special energy comes in, and it turns out that it's Jesus speaking to us. When he comes through, we had tears, the whole thing. And we couldn't believe it. From my background, I was absolutely very skeptical that all this was taking place. So he says to me, we got a message and we're using the board at that time, and said, the message was, are you ready to heal others? I said, I never thought about it, but yeah, He said, as proof that you're really speaking to me, I'm going to give you the ability to heal. And he actually gives me 2 names. One of the names was the person that was in charge of a convention I was going to speak at here in Salt Lake. Went in, and he said she has a heart problem. And he gives me this special prayer. So at the convention, I go up to her. I said, this is going to sound really weird, but are you having a problem with your heart?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, really. And
you feeling all right?
Uh-huh. And so I said, do you mind if I say this prayer for you? So I do, and she's still around, so I guess that worked. And there was a second lady there, and she was incapacitated with a migraine headache. And I was overhearing what she was saying. And she was saying, man, I get these all the time. And I hear in my head, heal her. I said, okay. So I woke up.
As you do.
So I woke up there. I said, "Do you care if I say a prayer and try to heal your migraine for you?" And by this time, everybody thinks I'm totally insane at the conference. So anyway, I say the prayer for her. Within an hour, her headache's gone, and she hasn't had one since. It's been like 4 years now. So he proved to me that, yeah, you really can do it if you make up your mind. And since that, I've said it for many people. I've had like 3 or 4 people with advanced cancer that are now in remission. And it's, I'm only a messenger. The prayer directs his energies, and but he did all of these things to prove it to me. And it's been a wild trip, especially with my background. Now we're doing our own little radio show on the ParaX radio network, and we call it Channeling History. Mm-hmm. And every week we bring in a different Holy Spirit or spirit, and we channel with them for an hour, and we let the people in the chat room ask the questions of these spirits. Last week we channeled with Nostradamus for an hour on live time in the radio. We've been able to channel with archangels. We've channeled with 7 different angels. We've done Gabriel, Raphael, Metatron, and on our radio show so far, we did Gabriel a couple weeks ago for Christmas week, and it's just an amazing journey. It's incredible for me to describe it.
Right. There is so many questions I've got at this point.
Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of questions for that little trial. Yeah.
Just from that synopsis, so many questions I've got going through my head. First of all, I would like to ask what it's been like for you personally, with your rational, skeptical mind from your background of work, to going into this world where the faith of your belief in what you're saying spirit are telling you, your faith in that belief in that is incredibly strong, but your mind must be going, what?
Oh, many times.
You know what I mean? Like, no, Jesus, thank you very much, lovely to meet you and all that, but it must be a battle in your head.
Well, yeah, especially with the fact now that I can often see them when they're here with me. It's I can't describe it. It's just unbelievable to me as well.
Even though you were skeptical right at the start, you didn't have much time. Did you have a religious conviction before? Were you sort of like brought up in a religious home?
Well, I grew up in a very rural community in the state of Pennsylvania. We were across the street from a very, very strict religion. And my grandmother would actually take me to tent revivals and things. As we grew older, we always believed, but I never thought that any one religion was correct. I looked at the Gospels, and I had doubts about many things that were written in the Gospels. Couldn't believe that, little things like Adam and Eve and, Moses having the whole Red Sea parted, all 100 miles, and Noah. We always had a very, very strong spiritual belief, but organized religions, we just pulled away from. Mm-hmm. So that's the background that I bring into all this.
Connie, for you, I'd like to bring Connie in at this point. For you, watching this journey, how has that been for you?
Mind-boggling.
Were there times where you were going, are you okay?
Can this really be true? And especially once we started to channel with the Holy Spirits, I thought, I can't be good enough to be doing this. Like, why would they come to me? There are more beautiful souls in this world than mine. But Jesus loves us all, no matter how good or how bad our souls are.
Yeah, keep in mind, we keep mentioning channeling with Jesus, but the message that we get are the many paths. It's not just a trip. Christians aren't the only ones that go to heaven. I mean, We've interviewed Buddha. We do a lot of different religious people that we channel with. So it's even though Jesus is the personification of God or source or whatever you want to refer to him as, they give us messages of the many paths into heaven, and they explain heaven. We know what heaven is, and it's amazing.
So, Connie, you were with Barry throughout this sort of, could you call it, experience, transformation from sort of skeptic to sort of, this journey he embarked on.
Yes,
and you were just as involved as Barry was through this?
I don't have all of his abilities, but I'm a big believer, and I do get messages in my head from time to time that I know didn't come from me, that they came from my guides. But he and I've been married. We just celebrated our 56th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
That party boy from Lehigh University, I never expected in a million years to turn into what he is today. But I feel very honored that Jesus has chosen us to help get his word out and to help other people. It's really nice when someone has a loved one pass away and we can get messages to them. Like when my father passed away 2 years ago, we were on our way to my sister's house, which is where he passed, and my dad came through to us while we were driving and asked us to please help my mom, which we did. It's a wonderful gift. It's unbelievable, but I just feel blessed.
So you'll get these sort of feelings, messages, or what do you sort of have to take time out to tune in to receive, or will they just come to you sort of whilst you're going about your everyday business, so to speak?
I don't have the skills that Barry has. I can't get messages for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm his partner. He does the research when we do our radio show and puts all the questions up, and I read the questions, but he's done all the work.
Well, you never know when the messages are coming. Every once in a while, I'll look at something and I'll know, and I'll hear in my head, yes, you need to do this with this. It's been such a bizarre journey. It's totally not predictable. I'll give you, for instance, we're here at Park City at the ski area, and Monday we wanted to go out and ski, and we usually get there when the lift's open, ski a couple hours, and go home because, old as we are, we can't take it too much anymore. So anyway, we get up and we got ground fog. So we waited till the fog cleared, and I said, well, if there's anything wrong with the weather, we stay home now. So we're about an hour and a half later than when we usually go in, get our skis, and we're standing in line, and there's a guy. All of a sudden I hear this thump, and I look, and this guy has collapsed right in front of us, about 10 feet away, and in the lift line, waiting to get on the chairlift. And he just never moved. There was a doctor in line. They come up and they immediately start the CPR on him. And I knew he had passed. And I'm standing there, and I actually watched the spirit leave his body. And I'm going, it dawns on me what's going on all of a sudden, watching this thing take place. And everything was arranged that we would see this. So when we got back here to the house, I got Laura. I said, Laura, did you guys arrange this thing that I saw this morning? And she said, yes. We thought it was very important that you would actually see a soul come from the body so that you never have any doubts about that again. So when I tell you we lead a weird life, yeah, buddy. You never know what's going to happen.
Paul, sorry, did you want
to? Yeah, I mean...
The problem is, Paul, I think the problem is when you're not living it, when it's not happening to you directly, it's very easy to be very sceptical, isn't it? And go, yeah, right. But
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's human nature, isn't it?
Oh my God, yes. And everybody, 50% of the people that watch us do this. You know, I'm sitting in here in where we do our radio show and stuff, and when I channel, I just kind of stare into space, and I'll get these guys who come, oh, you're reading all this. Well, I'm not. You know, I can do it in front of an audience. I have videos up on my YouTube channel where I'm standing in front of people, and I'm letting them pick who they want to talk to and ask questions of.
We're never when somebody laughs at us or tells us we're nuts, because the fact is, all of this defies everything that we've learned in science and every experience that we've had. So unless they've had their own experiences where the spirits come to them, yeah, they're not going to believe, and that's okay.
But wouldn't it be easy though to prove that what is being channeled through you can be proved by, if I don't know, for example, you know, some sort of artifact. If there's an artifact connected to the person, like for example Jesus. Let's say Jesus comes through you, and why can't can he not tell us where the cave was where he was buried, for example, somewhere that is quite personal to him, but we could quite easily find it, like the Holy Grail or something, because that's the cup of his father.
Yeah, we've done a lot of that. We do once a month. We do a call-in show where we take calls for a couple hours. And I had a guy call in, and we also can communicate with animals. Give you a quick story. I'll digress and I'll tell you a personal story. We had a cat that we loved named Bodacious that we had to put down about 15 years ago. So once I learned I could communicate to the other side and talk to animals, we started communicating with her on the other side. And I said, would you please come back to us? And in the beginning, she was reluctant because we were living in a small apartment back in Pennsylvania, having to stay with the store at the time. But one night she said, I'm channeling. I said, can we please have you come back? We'd love to have you back. She says, I will return to you in 13 months as a black kitten, and I will find you. Within 1 week of when she said, this black kitten finds us. We have her here with us, and it is exact. And she said, I want the same name. I want to be called Bodacious. And this black kitten finds us in the most amazing way within 1 week of when she says, and it is our old Bodie, because the personality is very similar. So, I mean, things like that keep happening. I'll go through another personal situation. 4 years ago, I'm starting to have some problems, and that I felt might be heart related. Connie was out here in Salt Lake City with our friends at Channel, and I was back in Pennsylvania. She gets on the channeling board out here, and the message she gets is Barry has to go see a doctor right away. So when she comes back home, I go see the doctor and wind up having a quad bypass. Obviously, I'm still here from it, so I recovered.
Yeah.
But
that's sort of it's sort of validating it for yourself.
Oh, wait till you hear the next part of the story.
Okay.
2 years ago, I have a heart attack. Go into the hospital in Pennsylvania. They do all the tests. The doctor comes in, shows me the heart damage on the screen, says, we got to go in. You're not getting oxygen. We got to go do this thing. So they take me in, and I'm laying there waiting to go into the surgery. I got my eyes closed, and I see an angel comes up, stops in front of my face, and flies away. So I told Connie, I said, we're fine. Nothing to worry about. We're good. So we go in, they do the procedure, and I wake up. And I said, okay, guys, how many stents did we do? And they said, we didn't do any because we couldn't find any heart damage. So what do you mean? I just went through this and there's nothing wrong. They said, we went through all the arteries. You have no heart damage. Your heart is very healthy. They wheel me out. I'm laying in recovery, and in my head I hear just as clear as can be, if I can have you heal others, I can heal you as well. And when that angel flew up and looked at me, he had healed my heart and performed 100% curable medical miracle. So, I mean, these things keep happening.
Yeah.
I think what Paul's point is that's great validation for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if they've got a message to get out, these powerful entities that you're conversing with and giving that message, why are they not giving something more tangible for a wider audience, for something that can't be ignored or dismissed, and even would make the skeptics go, I can't explain that. Why will they not do? Why will they not step that far in? You can imagine the impact that would have on world spirituality if that happened.
Yes, and I think that's going to happen in the future because they've told me to write 3 books. My last book was called Spirit Speak, Channeling the Life of Jesus. In that we channel everybody related, told the true story of the birth, crucifixion. Get ready for this, his married life. A lot of things aren't in the gospel.
Yeah, and not shocked by that bit, to be fair.
We're all familiar with that one, yes.
Well, in that book, we even channel with his wife, and she tells us the story of their marriage.
Is that Mary Magdalena?
No.
Ooh, spoiler alert, everybody.
No, a woman by the name of Toba. And his marriage was kept a total secret because they felt the Romans would kill the family. He knew how he was going to die. He was going to be killed by the Romans. And he wanted to protect his family. So it was one of the best kept secrets ever of the time. The only disciple that ever knew he was married was Peter. But that's the background behind it. But in that book, we go through that, and then we tell the whole story of his life. And but that lays the foundation. Now, I just had a new book come out last month, and it's called Spirit Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits. And in that book, we start by channeling with Moses, and he tells the story of the Exodus and what really takes place. We could have a chapter with John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, and then we do a chapter of messages from Jesus, and then we do some current souls. We do Mother Teresa. Have a very interesting chapter with Constantine, where he tells how he selected the Gospels. And then we wind up even with a chapter with Reverend Billy Graham with his soul, because he had passed, and we brought him in for the final chapter. So that's a book about his messages, which is out now. And then I'm working on a 3rd book that he wants me to write, and that is simply about his contemporary teachings and how his teachings relate to what's taking place in the modern world. Hopefully I'll have that done in another year, and then those 3 books will lay the foundation that he wants laid for what his teachings are. So that's where we are with the books. But yes, I think when the 3 volumes are complete, they tell me something's going to take place. They won't tell me what it is, but I think that something will happen at that point.
Okay, so the angels or whoever it was told you to write a book. What books have you written?
Well, I've got 7 out there now.
Okay.
But they've led me through all the books. And the amazing part of my writing is I can't write. I can do math, statistics, but I was a horrible student at English and foreign languages. Avoided every writing course I could ever avoid because I did poorly in them. And all of a sudden, I have a writing guide, and we're hammering these books out. So that's all part of the miracle as well. Because anybody that knew me back in school days knows darn well that I was very specific in the courses I avoided.
Yeah, I can do with a
Courses
guy.
like that.
Yeah, I can do with one of those guys that'll help write my blogs, I think.
So almost like the books are almost like a channeling experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so let's talk about that side of things, right? From my understanding, spirit comes close to talk or to come through you to give that message, and it can get very close. In fact, of like your face changes, like transfiguration can go on, can't it? Trance mediumship almost. But when I've watched your videos, you don't seem to be in a trance. But that's just an external perception. What's it like for you when they're that close to you?
Bizarre. About the best way to describe it. It's a very, very light trance. Because when I'm channeling, I actually don't remember what I'm saying. So after a lot of these shows, I have to go back and read the transcripts to actually know what I said. Mm. But I am just simply, it's like they take over my body and I just simply speak their words. We did a radio show with Billy the Kid, one of the famous Western outlaws that we had here. Mm-hmm. And when I speak, you'll hear me actually speaking the terminologies that he used. And I mean, as I was doing it, I was catching it. There were times that I thought he was actually going to swear, that he was leading up to a cuss word, and he caught him. But you'll hear the pace and the word changes a lot like we did. One time in the Conspiracy book, we did a chapter on King Richard. And when we channeled him, his answers were in the Old English with the I's and the yays and all that stuff. But usually it's just the words come out. It's very hard for me to describe. But it can happen almost instantaneously. Like we can request a spirit, and somehow or they must have this system on the other side where they page people and then they come. But I've done it in front of audiences where I've just simply let them name the person they want to, the famous person they want to talk to. Laura brings that person, and I let the people ask their own questions, and I just answer in their words. It's strange.
So when Laura's bringing that person, so you can literally request anybody?
Pretty much. There are souls. Now, when we started this, the one thing they told us was never, ever request evil. Because there are souls that have been sent to the lower level that are not available. Mm. When that happens, then the guides will fill in and give the information. But there are definitely souls out there, or the soul may have reincarnated and be back. And if the soul's back, then obviously we can't talk to them either.
I listened to your show where you spoke to John Wilkes Booth, the guy that assassinated Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people would consider what he'd done was sort of like quite an evil act, but he was quite easy for you to sort of connect with?
No, he was surprised. They actually had to get like a hall pass for him to come back to.
I love that.
They had to shout down below, "Wait, get up here quick!"
Yeah, no, he was real happy to talk to us.
If you're talking to someone like JFK, John Kennedy, obviously he would have been privy to a lot of state secrecy information. How does that work? Because he's got no tie to the physical now, really. He could blow things out the water if he wanted to. Obviously chooses not to, but he could.
Well, we never asked him any questions that could blow things out of the water. I mean, he told us who killed him. He gave us the name of the guy that pulled the trigger, and it wasn't Oswald. Gave us other names for a hint, I think the guy's name was Howard Hunt. It was a Hunt, was his last name. But this guy was involved. He was one of the Watergate break-in people. And when Hunt dies, he actually does a deathbed confession that he was involved with this. You go online and see it. They told us, they tell us these facts that I have no idea existed. When I was doing the conspiracy book, they would tell me these things. And then I would go back and do the research and verify what it was. Because when I only tried to put in stories that I could verify. The John Wilkes Booth story is well documented.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of getting at, because that is his sort of his story around that particular point in time is, as far as I'm aware, is quite well documented.
Yeah, there actually was a book written about it, and I didn't realize this until we were told the story. Of course, everybody's going to say, "Oh yeah, you knew everything about it," but I didn't. But when we wrote the conspiracy book, they would tell me things, and I would go back and verify. We did a chapter on George Patton in the book, and he told me a story I absolutely could not believe, that he actually wasn't killed in Europe. And he even gives me the name of the nurse that cared for him back here after they brought him back. Gives me the address of where they kept him out in San Francisco. I mean, these were things, and now those are things I couldn't verify, obviously, because they're deep, dark secrets.
Yeah.
But he was so specific in all the details he was giving me. It just blew me away. To do that chapter, we wound up channeling with him 3 different times because I just couldn't believe what he was telling me.
Yes,
I watched the story.
Because Patton was a great believer in reincarnation himself, wasn't he? He was I can remember sort of reading stuff, and he believed himself that he was sort of like a multi sort of reincarnation of quite a few famous generals throughout history.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he told us about those too.
Yeah.
I mean, he told us a lot of things that, we didn't put into the chapter. But no, he's an amazing guy. But all of the stories we heard, just like we're going to do a show on our radio show where we're going to do unsolved mysteries. I had started actually writing a book about unsolved mysteries, and they told me to stop. They need me to do this other thing. But for instance, I had already written a chapter on Jack the Ripper, and they gave me his name, who really was Jack the Ripper, and his background and everything, what happened to him after the crimes were committed. So we're going to channel that one of these weeks on our radio show.
Can you give us a spoiler? That's
What
obviously one of the most enduring stories in the UK. You can pretty much understand why I'm very curious on that one.
That would have pricked a lot of ears up over it.
It's no name you've ever heard of. Ooh. It's a guy that he was a butcher, and he committed the crimes, and the police actually brought him in and talked with him, but they didn't think he was guilty. And after the police talked to him, he goes to France, commits a couple more incognito murders over there, and then dies of a sickness. But it's not any name that is ever, any famous name that's ever connected with it is not accurate.
Oh, we're going to have to tune in on that one, aren't we, on the Soul
yes.
show. He's not going to give us any more, damn.
Said you wanted to tease.
I should imagine when our producer hears this, he'll be having a coronary.
Honestly, in the UK, when that show goes out, the whole of the UK is going to be like listening to that one. Prepare yourself is all I can say. You're going to get multiple ripperologists probably being there on that show.
Yeah. No, but it's not. But they told us the whole story of the guy that did it. We did a crime that happened in the 70s over here was D.B. Cooper. I don't know if that name rings a bell over there.
Yes, was he the guy that parachuted out the back of the aircraft?
That's correct.
Yes.
They gave us his whole story, what happened to him. he actually gets injured when he tries to land. When he goes out of the airplane, he misjudges the wind speed and it blows all the money away.
Oh, how gutting.
Because the story is, for those that don't know, he hijacked an aircraft, didn't he? And they loaded some money on board, and he took off again, and then he literally just parachuted out the back of the aircraft in mid-flight.
Yep. And but we're going to do that. We're going to do that crime. And the famous pass in Russia, what Duntov starts with a D. I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, Pass. Now that's another one, isn't it, Kerry?
Where all those people killed. Yeah, we're going to do that one also. But we also know what happened there because I'd written that chapter also. So it's going to be an interesting show when we switch over to and do that special. And then in April, we're going to channel the captain of the Titanic. And we're going to find out what really happened on the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. So we do a lot of interesting stuff.
You certainly do. Now, there are a couple of things I would like to ask you about. You've channeled a couple of people that are modern people and have living relatives, like Robin Williams and Princess Diana. Mm-hmm. I would like to ask, and I say this with the utmost respect, where do you sit ethically with that? Because that is very personal to people that are still alive, and it's very emotive to a lot of people when you're talking about channeling people that are in this modern time. Both of those people are incredible characters in their own right, very emotive when you talk about their particular deaths. Mm-hmm. But because they have living relatives, do you not feel that that's not maybe something that should be non-territory? It should be lovely to talk to you, but I'm not going to put that out there because it must be very upsetting for the relatives that are still alive. What's your argument for that one?
Why would the truth be upsetting?
Because only the people that their families are know the truth.
Don't they want? I mean, if my family was involved, I'd want to know the truth.
Do you not think they already do?
I'm sorry?
I said, do you not already think that they know the truth?
In a lot of instances, I don't think they do, no. We're going to talk to Robin Williams on Sunday.
I know you are. Prepare to laugh is all I'm going to say on that one. He hid his depression behind humour. Very tragic, actually. Very relevant. Relevant, but very tragic.
And we're doing it because of the suicides. We've done a lot on suicide prevention. We've channeled people that have, done suicide, and they tell us what it is actually like after it takes place. And once you hear the story, we're hoping it acts as a deterrent. I mean, we've backed some people off. We've had people that were contemplating suicide that have heard the stories and have backed off from it because of what we do. So, in my opinion, the truth is what it is. And, some people believe, people don't believe. That's where we come from on this. If those spirits thought that there was harm in that message being given, they would not do it.
Have you ever had a spirit refuse to talk to you that you've asked for?
The first time we channeled Robin Williams, he didn't want to come through for us. But somebody twisted his arm and he did.
Okay. Let's talk about the journey on the other side then when a person passes over. What's the process that they go through when they go through the other side? Because it's obviously, you don't just pass over and continue. You hear various stories of you review your life, you write a new life pattern for when you reincarnate. There's lots of theories and, ideologies that have come through from that. From your understanding, from talking to these spirits, what is that process that a spirit goes through once they've passed over?
Well, sometimes it depends on how the spirit passes. Sometimes when the spirit passes very rapidly, they're shocked by it. and they really can't believe they're on the other side. Davy Jones of the Monkees died rapidly of a heart attack. And we channeled him, and he said he was utterly shocked. All of a sudden, he's looking back down, and he can't believe that he's out of body. People that are suffering from like Alzheimer's and long-term serious diseases, their soul can actually leave the body before come and go from the body as they're nearing death.
So you mean that's a gradual separation?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're preparing for it.
Okay.
When you go to the other side, it's hard to explain, obviously, but it's going to be what you think it's going to be. It can be many different things. If you think there's going to be a tunnel and light, in all probability, you'll see a tunnel and light. You may just suddenly see the spirits of your loved ones appear to you and help you. When Connie's father died, he was a World War II vet that fought under Patton. And when we channeled George, he said that he was going to be there to help her father pass. And after her father passes, and I talked to him, he said he was shocked to see General Patton there when he came over. So it can be a lot of different things, but it's all good. You know, you're gonna face a judgment. Your guides are gonna go through your life to show you what you did right and did wrong, and you know you're gonna go on from there. If everything went well, there's 7 realms in heaven. The whole reason we come back and reincarnate is so we can advance in the realms. Mm-hmm. If you led a good life, you either stay in the realm you were or perhaps move up. If you did things that were bad, you might be sent back one realm or so. And if you were really bad, there's a special lower realm of nothingness where you're sent. And then you can be there for an awful long time. But it's death isn't anything to fear. I mean, what they tell us is that death is the beginning of a cycle. Humans look at death as the end of a cycle. The spirits look at death as the beginning because it sets your soul free to do another life plan and to advance and to move ahead.
When we've had near-death experience, people come on. Sometimes it's not always been a pleasant experience or an out-of-body experience. You know, where they've died and then come back. It's not been their time; they've come back. Now, a lot of those times you do get the lovely spirits were there to meet them, the white tunnel, blah, blah, blah. There are other experiences that people have had that have not been pleasant, even though that person would not necessarily be considered an evil or a bad person. And it scared them for that process of transition. Why do they get that? An everyday normal person living their life gets a really fiery, helly, demonic almost experience for that kind of experience.
Well, it might be something from a prior life. You know, karma is very real. Things follow you through multiple lifetimes. Don't know. I haven't ever talked with anyone that had a bad experience.
Richard?
Yeah, so the process on the other side is sort of, you say there's different levels and stuff, but for the souls that go over, the ultimate goal is to be reincarnated again. This is a ongoing process.
For evolution. It's for soul evolution.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you speak of reincarnation, now this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to disagree with here. Your soul energy has been basically around since creation. So where has your soul energy been when the humans weren't around? Humans only been here for 250,000 years, and the universe been around for billions. Well, the answer is your soul's reincarnated on other planets. And that's why when I channeled with Moo, he had the same soul energies. So all of us have lived lives on other planets. It's just the way it is.
That brings us back to the conversation we had with a shamanism called Gareth Hughes. Yeah. And he said exactly the same thing. And he said the reason why we've got more people on the planet now is because they're not just coming from this planet, they're coming from everywhere. They're queuing up, waiting for the Earth experience. And at the time, we were all sitting there thinking, oh, no, step too far. But you're saying the same thing. You're validating that same concept, aren't you?
It's the way it is, of course.
Brilliant.
Where was your soul energy before humans walked the earth? We're told that our planet has been visited since the time of the dinosaurs. That's 65 million years ago. There are planets out there where the souls have advanced to the point that they get along. They don't try to kill each other. They have such advanced technologies that mutual destruction is out of the question. Humans are a very young culture. We're very violent. We have not learned the messages of getting along. We're sent back. All people are sent back with free will and egos. And how that free will and egos affect their lives is how the evolution of this planet will be determined. And I mean, I refer to God as a sports referee. He stands back and watches. He is not the manager of the team. He's going to let humans do what they want. I mean, we're going through this in the United States right now. This is free will at its best. I mean, we're either going to make it or we don't. Because keep in mind, every great civilization in the world has been destroyed. There have been some that have lasted for thousands of years, but they all come to an end. And if humans can't accept the fact, this is the first time they've been given weapons of mass destruction. So God's not going to take humans off this earth, but humans can take themselves off.
Yeah.
On that note, we've actually come to the end of the first half of the show. And we're going to take a quick break, catch our breaths, and then continue with this absolutely fascinating discussion after the break.
Hello, Harry Price here. If there's nothing me and my friends enjoy more here on the other side, it is to sit back and relax and listen to the Paranormal Concept Show, right here on the PAUK Radio Network. Broadcasting a plethora of interesting and informative content for all your paranormal needs. Find them across social media to keep up to date with forthcoming shows and all their other adventures. Hello, is there anybody there?
And welcome back to the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Now, before the break, we were exploring Barry and Connie's fantastic, amazing journey in regard to channeling spirit and some of the amazing people they've spoken to. We're going to delve into that a little bit more in the second half. Before we get into that side, I want to talk about the alien factor. Now, it's a very controversial one, everybody. It's you know, it's very diversive, shall we say. People believe, they don't believe. Are they, when we get ufology encounters nowadays, you hear a lot on that in the ufology world, are they nuts and bolts, or are they multidimensional, or are they just not?
What? Tell me again what the thing is.
Like when we hear about like encounters with alien beings from another planet.
We're good with that.
Yeah, they, like when you hear of spaceships and stuff like that, are they real? Are they nuts and bolts, or are they multidimensional? Do they come through from far out in space, like, I don't know, Deep Space Nine or whatever, Voyager or whatever it's called on Star Trek type thing, or are they actually multidimensional jumping?
Well, they're everything. People don't understand how many different varieties or what goes on out there. Moo told us that they have a base ship that they use, and on that ship there's over 250 varieties of aliens on it. But keep in mind, if you're an extraterrestrial we're aliens to them. So, everything's relative. But no, Connie has actually been abducted, and I have seen a real one. So, and I have seen spaceships. So, yeah, it's all very, very real.
Star Trek is real, Paul.
It is. I've always known there's a Federation out there. They're just waiting for us to have warp capability.
Well, there you go, Paul. Question answered.
I devoted a whole chapter to it, to the Confederation, so to speak, in my conspiracy book.
When are we going to get? Because you also do prophecy, don't you? You also sort of talk about things that are going to happen in the future. When are we going to meet and be part of this as humans?
It's happening. There's a lot going on in Antarctica that just simply hasn't been disclosed yet. The United States is now investigating the UFOs and are admitting that they have incidents that they can't accept. And when the time is right, that the people will not be so petrified and understand, you will have full disclosure. But it's coming, and it started. All of the internet, social media stuff is all part of disclosure. Look at all the videos and information that's up on now. This is how it comes. They had thought about having disclosure earlier. In 1920s, there was a radio show called War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had people jumping off of buildings. So they realized folks weren't really ready for this yet.
But it's true.
We're quite familiar with that broadcast.
But it's taking place. More and more people are having alien encounters now. There are more abductees. There are many aliens that are among us. I mean, that was my alien book was called Aliens Among Us: Exploring Past and Present. And there's an awful lot going on people don't understand.
So when we hear what sounds crazy theories of lizard alien people that have got cloaking devices so they look like normal human beings being on this planet, to some degree, that's true.
Yeah, shapeshifters are very real. One was involved with Connie's abduction. Why don't you tell them a quick story of when you went for
This happened about 23 years ago, back before we were into this business. I was in South Florida driving up a major interstate about 10:30 in the morning, going through a very busy area. I took note to this one exit as I went past it. And the very next thing that I know and where I'm conscious is 2 exits further north. It's just like someone pushed a button on my head and turned my brain off. And then 2 exits later, they pushed the button again and turned my brain back on. And it wasn't like when you're sleeping, because you take a while to wake up. But this was very, very quickly. So I couldn't understand what happened. So I went to my cardiologist, and he did EKG on me, and he said, "Everything seems fine, Connie. You must have fallen asleep." And I'm thinking to myself, if I had fallen asleep, I would have lost control of my car and taken out other people with me. And I thought about it for a few years, then I just finally put it aside because there's no explanation. So about 4 years ago, we were on the channeling board with Moo, our buddy from outer space. And Barry asked him, he said, "Moo, have Connie or I ever been abducted?" And he said, "Yes, Connie has." And as soon as he said that, I knew exactly when it happened. And I said to him, "Moo, why didn't the car wreck?" And he says, "It's easy when you know how." Tell me how.
Yeah.
He says, "Shapeshifter." So evidently when they took me, and the reason they take you is for educational reasons. They never take you for something evil. In fact, I met a woman up in Toronto, Canada, who had been abducted, and she has memories of hers. I have absolutely no memory of what happened during my abduction. But she said she was laying on what felt like a metal table, and she had been diagnosed with a cancer shortly before this happened. And she was going to be soon going back to the doctor for them to set up an appointment for her surgery and treatments. And she said there were these beings around her, and she felt this horrible, horrible pain. And when she came out of all of this and then went back to her doctor, he couldn't find the cancer. So what they did was they took her and they cured her cancer. So it's amazing stuff.
You often sort of hear when sort of like in the ufology world where people have different theories, is there any conflict going on? You know, because it always seems to be Earth-centric that we are sort of like a sort of quite a, you know, we're not ready for anything because we're quite sort of like a violent race and stuff like that. We don't listen. But with this sort of alien sort of like sort of groups and them, is there any conflict within them, or do they all sort of live in peace and harmony?
Well, they've learned that they have to get along because their technology is so amazing compared to ours. I mean, the thing you got to realize, if aliens or extraterrestrials meant us harm, we'd be harmed. We'd be long gone. I mean, they've been around for millions of years, where we've been around for, 250,000. So they're really advanced. I mean, they can do things. One time I asked Moo, my blue alien buddy, I said, when you were, and he lived on a planet called Robe. It's on the far spiral of the Milky Way. And I said, how long did it take you to get from your planet here? And he said, it took about a week. So
a week.
They have this technology that we cannot conceive of or even imagine. They feel emotions we can't think or imagine. And that's why you have to reincarnate on all these different worlds in order to advance, because you have to understand all this stuff. So, I mean, you've reincarnated thousands of times throughout the millennia. So you thought you felt old now? Think about that.
There you go, Kerry. It takes a week.
No, I
not centuries.
Take a week. This is an argument we have on a regular basis, Barry, between the presenters. So, Moo, let's talk Moo, because I've heard of other encounters with the blue aliens. And I find alien quite rude, actually. Do they have a name like we have humans?
It depends. Keep in mind, there are forms of aliens that you can't. There are light figures, energy figures. There are alien types that don't have body forms. They're shapeshifters. There's so much going on out there, you just can't conceive of it. Mu. That was his name on his planet. His name was what?
Mutua.
Mutua. And he said, just call me Mu for short. So they have names, but it's all different.
Now you've got this connection, particularly in regards to Connie. They abducted her in a time when you wasn't disconnected, but now you are connected. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't they ask permission? Would you mind us helping us advance with our studies type kind of permission? That would be polite and nice, wouldn't it, to do? Rather than just abducting people.
Well, we were told that before we came back and reincarnated, that we agreed to the abductions.
Right.
Oh, I don't think I agreed to that.
There was no harm done. I was fine. And the other gal that I met actually had her cancer cured. So.
Yeah, they're positive experiences, aren't they? But for some people, it's a terrifying experience.
Yes, because they're seeing these bodies, these beings that they absolutely can't conceive of. And it is terrifying all of a sudden to know that you're in a place where you've never conceived of being and you didn't give permission that you're aware of to do it.
Obviously, Kerry's quite interested in that. Would it be possible to channel Moo now?
No. Sadly, when he came to us, he told us he'd be with us for 2 to 3 years to help write a couple of books, and then he would leave us. But we are told that we are going to have another alien that we're going to be able to channel on the radio show one of these weeks. So yeah, we can channel aliens. I mean, it's not that hard. They have the same soul energy we have.
Yeah, Moo was really cool. We were channeling one time, and he spells out, "Connie girl, stop smoking." I said, "Moo, I don't smoke." I thought about it for a second. I said, "Oh, wait a minute. Are you talking about the smoke that comes out of my ears when I watch the news on TV?" And he said, "Yes,
well, I think
that's not good for your energy."
Yeah, it's not good for any of our energies. So do you think then, when's the change going to happen in regards to media? Because a lot of our fear comes through our media, like even down to films like Independence Day. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But there's a lot of that kind of media-driven fear in regards to this. Now, partly, someone would argue that that's, it's driven by a higher council on planet Earth to create that fear, so it's never going to be acceptable to humans. Or is there going to be a shift where we see more alien-friendly kind of media, so we are more accepting for when that happens?
Yeah, it's all part of this major plan. In Star Wars, they had a lot of different alien types, like Chewbacca and, different characters. Well, apparently, a lot of those characters were pretty accurate. That whoever was behind that had envisioned these characters, but those characters were also put into their minds as a type of an introduction. So it's going to be this long process. The people have just simply got to be led to the fact that they're nothing to fear. I'll tell you a quick story about when I saw the alien. We were in our apartment in Pennsylvania. I woke up, and we have night lights on because we have cats, and you don't want to trip on a black cat.
True.
I sat up in bed, and I looked over, and I saw this big form standing beside the bed on Connie's side. And I thought I would, I cleared my head and made sure I wasn't dreaming all this stuff. And I looked at it, and it was a reptilian form. And it looks at me and smiles and then knocks me out. That's the last I remember. I woke up, I said, did I dream this? What in the world took place here? So that was when we were working with our friends in Salt Lake City on the channeling board. So that night, I get them on the channel on Skype, and they have the board in Salt Lake, and we're sitting in Pennsylvania, and they know absolutely nothing about what took place. Okay. So I said, Moo, can you come to the mountain Salt Lake? And they answered that he's here. And I said, Moo, did I see an alien last night? And in Salt Lake City, they get the answer on the channeling board, yes, and did you see him smile at you? And I told nobody, not even Connie, that he had smiled. Mm-hmm. So, pretty good verification, and it actually took place.
I do have to say that it's not just Star Wars that got good aliens. I mean, you've got Star Trek, and you've even got blue aliens in Star Trek. The Andorians.
Would you say...
My blue alien stood 7.5 feet when he lived.
No, they're not that big.
Would you say perhaps sort of like authors, artists, more creative people are sort of more naturally in tune to this, and they are sort of tuning into something whether they know it or not? Because you often hear sort of authors and the way they develop characters and stuff. I'm particularly thinking perhaps of the script writers of, say, Star Wars. I mean, even though they probably think they've made these characters sort of up from their imaginations, would you say that they are tuning into something?
Yes, these thoughts are being put into your mind. This is all part of the plan. They are working towards full disclosure so that we can work with aliens. And they've been contributing to us for ages. I mean, I was amazed to be told all the contributions that aliens have made to us through the ages.
Yeah, we were told that they helped Dr. Salk create the Salk vaccine for polio.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The MRI machine, they gave us the technology for that. They helped gave us the technology for the atom bomb. There's a ton of stuff that the aliens have cooperated with.
Could they not help with the COVID situation?
They probably could. They probably could. But I think this is, and I think maybe they have, because look how fast the vaccines come out.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. It's quite unprecedented, isn't it?
Impressive. Quite frankly.
I mean, we're looking at vaccines never arrive this fast. So I'm sure that, that we got a little boost from them. This is the way it works. They'll get into the head of the scientists. They'll put stuff in their minds, and they think they thought of it themselves.
Oh, it must be so annoying.
They could have just saved time and beamed us up, cured us, and put us back.
That's more wishful thinking on your part.
That's not learning for the human race, though, is it? We have to learn for ourselves and evolve for ourselves as much as anything else.
That is exactly
right. If we're all dead because of COVID,
we're not going to be all dead because of COVID.
We're not going to be learning anything, are we?
Yeah, but we're not, are we? Because there's a high survival rate.
Oh yeah, it's it's the death rate. Well, don't get me started on this one.
Okay. Can we talk about the prophet? Let's change tracks and go into the prophecy side of things, because we could get bogged down on the alien factor side of things, and there's so much we can cover with you. And with the prophecy side, what messages are coming through to you for the future for us, as for 2021? And you said 2020
then. When we started this, they gave us a lot of future predictions, because that was part of how they were convincing us of things. They told me that the last pope was going to retire, and I actually posted that online 6 months before it happened. They gave us, in the beginning, we were getting prophecies about earthquakes. They told us about one in Puerto Rico, and it hit right when they said it was going to hit. As we have advanced, they've pulled back a lot on the predictions, because they don't ever give a prediction that can change a life plan. For instance, if I asked when they were going to have the next big earthquake in California, they would never tell me exactly when it was, because people could take precautionary measures, and it would affect the life plan that they had. It could screw everything up.
So the idea of prophecy and prediction is not to sort of warn people per se.
Correct. Yeah, you came in with a life plan, and for instance, a guide will never tell you the time of death. So I have absolutely no idea when I'm going to go home, because that which could change the life plan. Now they are. We did Nostradamus on the radio show this week.
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, I asked him, I said, "Would you give us a prediction?" And his prediction was that we had to be very cautious with China, because they were attempting they would be doing many things that they wanted to be basically leaders of the world. So, but a lot of people understood that, but that was the prediction that he gave us this week on the radio show.
One of his older predictions, like when he first wrote his, the prophecies that he wrote, actually, when he wrote his prophecies, they were very obscure. You could translate them and put them onto. You could
do anything with them.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to go with it. And actually, one of those could be read in the same way of that.
Well, yeah, because he is utterly amazed that people think he could predict the future like this. He said, "There is no way I ever could understand what was going to be taking place from the 16th century to everything that you have going on around you today." He said when he wrote those quatrains, he intentionally wrote it in different languages, different poetic formats, because he wanted them to be able to be translated the way he wanted them translated, because he really didn't have the gift of prophecy. He studied history. He was an extremely brilliant guy. He knew, for instance, he knew that Germany was always fighting with somebody in those days. So he was safe to predict that in the future, Germany would be fighting with somebody. So that gets translated to be Hitler, because in one of his quatrains, he uses the word hister.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the 16th century, that was a term for the Danube River. So he wrote in such a complicated manner in multiple languages that are now ancient languages to translate. So you can basically come up with anything you want in these quatrains. But he's blown away by the fact that people still think he's predicting the future.
A lot of people still put a lot of stock in what he says.
Yeah, sorry, but that's what he said.
Okay, well, it's better from the horse's mouth, I suppose.
Well, yeah.
But that just shows, though, how people put their own... the intention of the person who did it is generally different from what everybody assumes. And that's just a pure example of that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, he wrote the quatrains to make money. I mean, people in those days were scared that the end of the world was coming. He wanted to take advantage of it, which he did. He had a very wealthy lifetime with these quatrains that he could interpret in any way he wanted to.
Oh, gosh, he could still be making money off of it today.
Clever man.
His lesson.
So, Barry, we've got roughly around about 40 minutes of the show left. Would you give us a demonstration of channeling? Would you be able to do that for us?
Who do you want to talk to?
Guys?
Just asking the guys.
Is there anyone you feel that has got a message for us three here, or would you prefer us to give you someone?
Well, pick a famous person that you'd like to talk to, and that you can ask questions for. Because if I bring the person up, everybody's going to say, "Aha!" You know.
Oh, okay.
True story.
Richard, what about someone from the English Civil War that you
Charles the First.
Okay. Laura, can we take Charles first? What is your question?
Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Richard. I'm very pleased to actually finally meet you after all these years. I would like to know, did he truly believe that his appointment as king was divine?
Absolutely. I felt that I was meant to rule. I felt that God supported our family, and that I was put on earth with the intent that I would rule.
Okay. There's a rumour that has circulated to do with your father. Nothing's ever been proven, but they believe his death was accelerated for yourself to become king. Is that true?
I felt that it was inevitable that I would be to rule, and it is quite possible that my assuming the throne may have occurred more rapidly than nature would have assumed.
Okay.
There's your answer. Was he a lawyer?
A very stubborn man he was, apparently. Yeah, Kerry, Paul, any questions?
No, I can't think of any for him.
Right.
Do you want to try King Richard?
Yes.
Third.
Richard III, yes. Let's try him.
All right, let's see. Laura, is Richard with us? Yes, I am here. How can I help you?
Immediately after your death, you were taken to Leicester. Your body was taken to Leicester. There was a lot of rumours circulating of what actually happened to your body after your death. Could you tell us what actually happened?
When I was killed, there were those that wanted to mutilate my body, and there were those that wanted to attempt to preserve it. My soldiers that were left hid my body and buried it so that it could not have been mutilated and burned. There was never any marking where they buried my body. It took many years until I could find someone that I could lead to the general location of where my body was buried.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Off you go, Kerry.
How do I phrase this? What part did you play in the Princes that went missing?
Oh, that was so going to be my question.
Sorry, Paul.
That was going to be my next question as well.
Yeah. What happened there?
I loved the Princes. I swore to my brother that I would protect them and that I would watch over them. When I was attempting to build my forces, they were taken to the tower. Mm-hmm. And there, an individual very close to me, who I trusted, had them murdered. I was blamed for it. But when I heard what had happened, I cried and felt that I had broken my oath to protect them. It was all part of the conspiracy that led to the traitorous events that caused my death.
Which battle did you die in again?
I died on Bosworth Field because the traitors would not support my battle against the Tudors.
Guys?
What hill did you die on?
In those days, I did not understand or know the names of the individual fields. Bosworth was the location, and it was near Leicester, but I cannot truly say. Things happened so fast at the end that when I knew I was betrayed, I did not want to die a coward.
Hey.
Are you, how you've been written in the history books, how do you feel about that now?
I have been betrayed by history as well. The work of Shakespeare did much to besmirch my name. I tried to do my best for the people of England. I had much more that I wanted to do. I wanted to secure the crown until my nephews could assume their rightful place. I was betrayed, and history was changed to give me blame and to cause my reputation to be besmirched and never to truly have the truth come out about what happened.
Is there documented evidence somewhere of that betrayal?
After the battle, much of the documentation was destroyed. The Tudors wanted my name to be ruined, and for those to believe that I had perpetrated the act of murder against my family. Much of the truth no longer exists. That is a reason why I try to come through and bring the truth since my body was discovered. Sadly, it is mainly my words against those of history.
True. May I ask a personal question?
Sure, surely.
Did you have an affair with Elizabeth of York?
Yes. And I have no more to say on the subject.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Hey. Trust you to bring that into the fray, Kerry.
Well, it's worth asking, right? If we could rewrite the history of your reign, what's the one thing you would like to be proudly remembered for?
I would like to be remembered that I was a servant of God and that I did my best for the people. Sadly, I was betrayed and could not fulfill many of the ideas that I had. But I want to be remembered as being a servant of God.
Well, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Kerry.
Do you know whether or not it was actually the boys that were discovered in the Tower of London?
The bodies were never discovered to my knowledge. I was told what had taken place, and I inquired as to the remains, but I was told that they were never found.
Okay. Do you know where they are?
They were taken to a potter's field near the tower and were buried along with the indigent and the poor.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Oh, yes, please, Connie. Feel free.
Yes.
Have you been able to spend time with your nephews now that you are all on the other side?
Yes, we are now all together here. My brother and my nephews are together. My nephews have returned since that terrible time and have lived another lifetime, but they have now returned, and our souls are still together here.
Very good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice, isn't it? Are you reunited with Anne?
We do see each other. We have life together in other lifetimes, but she also has lived many lives without me. But she is here, and we do see each other. But bear in mind, when you are on this side, things are much different.
Okay.
Oh, goodness me. Well, thank you for speaking to us, King Richard. That was very nice. May we speak to another infamous character from history? Could we speak to King Henry VIII?
Lars, Henry available?
A little worried about this one, to be fair.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm told he's here.
He's all yours, Kerry.
Thank you. Thank you. Where do I start, King Henry? You had an accident on the jousting field. You were renowned for your physical prowess when you were younger, and you had an accident on the jousting field. Did that change your personality?
Yes. I felt that I was indestructible. I knew that I could defeat most individuals, and I had no doubt that I would not be wounded. Sadly, that wound affected much of the rest of my lifetime, and that the pain and suffering it created had a very bad effect on my emotional state and many of my relationships.
Which of your relationships was the most important to you and hurt you the most?
Having a wife take a lover was the most devastating thing that I could have imagined. That was a very difficult time because I knew how I must react to it. And I did.
You most certainly did. In regards to Anne, those particular accusations were not proven. How do you feel about that situation now? Do you feel you were manipulated by your counsellors?
I was manipulated in many ways by many counselors. However, now that I am on the other side, I know the truth. And I know that in that case, I acted in a manner that was suitable for the actions that were taken.
What were your underlying sort of drive feelings to actually break with the Church of Rome? What drove you to do this?
I felt that the Roman Church had too much power over the people of Great Britain, and that the path of the church was corrupted by European politicians, and that England would be better served by following teachings that were not under the control of Rome.
Okay.
You had 3 children, all succeeded to the throne at some point. Which do you feel that your role as a father was amiss in some way, that you could have been a bit more of a guiding hand with those children?
Yes, but that can be said of all of the kings.
Yeah, that's true.
During those days, things were much different than they are now. We had ultimate power, and by wielding that power, we often did things that would never be acceptable in your modern times. So yes, the raising of the children was generally left to others, and we could certainly have been better fathers. But that is the way it was.
Being followed by, after Edward and Mary, you then had Elizabeth ascend the throne, and she was very much your daughter, in female form. Are you the proudest of her?
Yes, I do believe, as I look back, that Elizabeth would be my pride. Mm-hmm. She resembled me much in my mannerisms and in the way I would have, or the way that I did govern. So, yes, I believe you are correct. She would probably be my favorite.
I think you might have had quite a volatile relationship.
We were very similar.
Yeah.
And quite often, similarities result in fireworks and disagreement. I see her often over here, and I still love her as I did on Earth. And I will tell you, we get along much better over here.
Mm-hmm. When she joined you, when your children joined you in the spirit world, did you admonish them for any of their behaviour? I'm thinking of Mary in particular in this instance.
Mary did many things that we did not approve of. And she was guarded. She was judged quite harshly when she returned. So we really don't see much of her. And we probably will not see much of Mary in the future.
Fair enough. What's your biggest regret as king?
My biggest regret as king is that I did not fulfill many of the desires that I had. In many instances, as you mentioned earlier, my counselors would deceive me and give me information that was not accurate. And often I would act on that information. And citizens of our wonderful country suffered and were harmed as a result. I wish that I had been, in many instances, more independent in my actions and not had relied upon my counselors.
A difficult position for a king to be in, though, I feel.
Yes, that could, certainly. That's a lot of many a monarch, I think, through British history, unfortunately.
Yes, as I've watched from over here, it is certainly not something that was unique to my reign.
No, most definitely not. Your flagship has been raised, the Mary Rose has been raised, with many of amazing artefacts on there. What was your favourite artefact that was on the Mary Rose?
I would say that while many of the artifacts on the Mary Rose were important to me at the time, that there was a chalice that I felt was very important and had spiritual connections. I'm not sure if you are aware of that chalice, but it was on the ship, and I believe that it was recovered.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any markings on the chalice that I can look for?
It is my coat of arms on one side and a cross on the other.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I will certainly look into that. So thank you for that information. Anybody else? Connie, have you got any questions?
Not off the top of my head. You've done a pretty fine job of putting them together yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well done,
Very
Kerry, for taking that one.
History lesson.
I have to say, thank you for talking to me, King Henry, because you have come across in the history books as a very iconic king. The time that you lived in is something that's very, very looked upon with romanticism and fondness, I would say, and intrigue with how you reigned and some of the actions you took throughout your life. Some of that obviously has to do with your wife's situation. But it is one of the most iconic periods in history that a lot of people look to. So for that, I thank you.
You are quite welcome. I thank you for allowing me to come through. I look at what is taking place in our wonderful country now, and I often wonder how things have evolved to the situations that are now occurring. Hopefully, there will be a strong leader in the future. In my day, it would be king. In your day, I am not sure who will step forward to give you the leadership that is currently required. So much has changed in the world. There are so many things that are threatening the well-being of our wonderful country. I would caution that your leadership pays special attention to what is taking place in Russia and in many of your so-called allies. Hopefully, there will be a strong individual emerge that can see you through these difficult times. But I thank you for asking for me tonight. Many times I misunderstood, and I did truly live in a very difficult time. And yes, the history of my wives is something that I often wish had never happened. But I did the best I could with the advice that I was given. So thank you for listening to me tonight. And should you wish, I would be willing to come through once again. So good night and thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
It's been an absolute honour, to be fair.
Kerry, you're all flattered there.
I'm amazed, actually. Barry...
So that's how it works.
It's how it works. Amazing. Barry, is there any other message from the other side that you would like to impart to the listeners tonight?
Laura, does anybody want to give a message, a general message? Know that when I walked the earth, it was a very difficult time. The Romans were very violent, and paganism was rampant. Many of the words that I spoke are very important for what's taking place today. If humans don't learn to love one another, they will self-destruct. There will never be a time that God will destroy humanity, but humanity now has the capability of destroying itself. If you return to having the love of God in your heart, the love for others, and the desire for humans to evolve peacefully as other civilizations in the galaxy have learned. If you learn those lessons, humans will evolve. If you show hatred to others, others will show hatred to you. If you show love to others, hopefully they will show love in return. So just know this. The evolution and future of humans is in your own hands. Use your free will to follow the commands that you have been given of love. So, I thank you for asking if there was an additional comment. I'm sure you did not expect this one, but know that God loves all of you, all religions, all of those who lead good lives and help others. So God bless you tonight, and thank you for asking for a message.
God bless you too, Lara. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That wasn't Laura.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I hesitate to ask.
End their show. Time is running out.
It certainly is. Who was that? I don't want to say it.
It was.
It was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Himself felt it right away when it started.
Oh, thank you.
He wanted to prove that we really do speak with him.
Yeah.
Well,
we got it there, didn't we?
We certainly did. But thank you to Lara, because she is part of that process that allowed you to channel.
Yeah.
So there is thanks to Lara, and thank you to all the spirits that chose to come through and give validating information for us tonight on the Paranormal Concept Show. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Barry and Connie, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure and very, very informative as well in regards to how this works. And, you know, it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It really is. We've been doing this now for 10 years, and it's still blowing our minds.
Yeah, well, I certainly...
appreciate you having us on today.
And
that's great,
I never know who's coming through.
So whereabouts?
I had a feeling.
Had a slight inkling there. So whereabouts can people sort of follow you, check up on you, and things like that?
Well, probably the best place to see what we do is our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm, Strohm. We have about 116 videos up. We put all the radio shows up on YouTube. If you want to listen to our show live, it's called Channeling History. It's on the ParaX Radio Network, and we come on at 9 o'clock on Sundays Eastern Time in the United States.
So that's pretty late in the UK.
That's very late. So that's why I brought up YouTube first.
Excellent.
We're also on Podomatic, iTunes, and all those good places. All my books are available on Amazon. You go and look at them, see what you think of them. Mm-hmm. The website, spiritspredict.com, we have a lot of really interesting stuff up there. A lot of photos, a page on board channeling, and the page called Bodhi is Back tells of the reincarnation of our cats. So if you're a pet lover, go in and read that page. It'll change the way you look at things, and you will have a better understanding of how animal souls work. It's a wonderful story. There's a good one for everybody that likes animals. So
thank you so much. Sorry.
No, I just said that's pretty much our story. That's
well, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Paranormal Concept Show. I have to say to our listeners out there, whatever your opinion is, it's important to listen open-minded and without judgment, and listen to the story, see what you can take from it personally, and go forward with that. Guys, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm all right here. No, it's very interesting. I particularly enjoyed the channeling sessions as well. That is the first time I've ever sort of really been involved in any.
Oh, and now his internet goes. Paul? Paul?
The big man himself. I don't know how we're going to follow this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, we bid you all a very farewell, and thank you for listening to the Paranormal Concept Show.
Moving to a remote Amazonian village to live off the land is one change you could make to live more sustainably. Swapping your shower head for a water-saving one is another change you could make to live more sustainably. One's hard, one's not so hard, but both help. Change a bit for good. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.